That open was so good, Thomas. I had to do it twice.
That's always special.
Yeah, it's always fun when you come off to a double-click start there. You're so sensitive. The editing on the side over the producing, edited, producing, whatever, what else will we do? Executive producing, the whole 9 yards, Thomas.
Yeah.
Sure, for you and me. So you had a pretty good Cheltenham there, Thomas, with the jumpers. Maybe you can encourage some of these horses in Australia to jump over some fences on the way to the finish line today.
Well, we're going to try.
You said you had a nice trifecta today. What was that all about?
Yeah, but it was one of the undercard race. The big race today was the Gold Cup, which I went against the big favorite, but that was a mistake. The horse won last year, so I won this year again. And but the race I did a couple races. I did very well. I really can't complain. Overall, I had one stinko day. So
Wednesday, hump day. If there's going to be a stinko day, it's going to be
good
hump
for
day.
28. That's pretty good for 28 races,
Yeah, hell yeah. I think on Tuesday, if I remember on Tuesday, you picked one horse in like 4 races and then 3 of them at 1. So let's see if you can do that and be as hot today or tonight. We have a little bit of, it's not really insomnia racing. It's pre-game racing, right? If you're going out tonight, we're down in Rosehill in Australia. Tell us a little bit about that track down there, Thomas.
Well, it's one of my favorites, and unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be closing. Which is too bad, but it is one of the premier tracks in Australia, and the configuration, which will pop up, offers some nice pace race. I'm still not a big fan of the outside barriers, but we've got one race tonight where really the best horses are on the outside with the speed. So it's I think it's a real challenge, that race. So, and that is the Group 1 race.
Well, we have 7 group races tonight.
Yep.
It's a pretty big card. We're going to start in race 3 and we're going to go all the way through race 9. Normally, Tom and I just do 5 or 6 races. So I'm exhausted.
We had a bunch of group races, and I know how fabulous you love those 2-year-olds.
Just absolutely adore them, Mr. Thomas. They're my favorite thing to do in the entire world, except for playing golf with my buddies in the morning. All right, so we're going to start off in race number 3 at Rosehill. The form today is good for, so that means that the going is good. Didn't see anything much in the forecast to change all of that. Thomas, how about you?
They've talked about a little rain, possible some rain. So
scattered clouds right now, so not that big of a threat at the moment. And in this particular spot, they're going to go 1,200 meters. You did mention, Tom, we'd be popping up the racetrack map. So here you go, 1,200 meters. They're going to start here. It looks like in the infield, come around like in a V-shaped race there, Tom. Is that a tight turn in there, or should we look for inside post, get to that front there and cut that turn?
I don't know which one they're starting at, to be honest with you. I think they're starting on the outside course.
All right.
But I'm not 100% sure. I should have read the particulars. That's my fault.
Well, we can flip a coin on that one, and we'll get they're either going to start here or they're going to start here. But it looks like the only one they designate a start for 1,200 meters is the infield.
Yeah, I think it'll be the inside one. But I do know that occasionally they start on the outside one. But no, they should be on that inside course. It's an interesting race because that turn there's enough to get into before you get into that turn. But again, we're dealing with 2-year-olds, and those outside barriers can be a little daunting for a 2-year-old.
Just 2-year-olds in general,
and just getting position. Again, you don't know. Some of these horses have not raced a lot, so you just one race they go one way, and the next race they go the wrong way.
Yeah, Yosemite Sam, they went that way. Well, you mentioned on the speed being perhaps a factor getting to that turn. According to the speed map from racenet.com.au, great place to go find some great information on here. Chateau Miraval looks like it's going to have that big green stretch out there. That looks like it's the one that's going to set the tone, Thomas. Southern Charm, drifting, and She Smashes. Well, if the old folks don't know what that means, look it up, Google it. In any case, the Chateau Miraval looks like it's the one that's going to get the lead as they settle into that turn and start to make their way from home. Right here, it looks like most of these horses want to be middle back. Really, if that Chateau can get to the front and kind of run some reasonable fractions, maybe a shot to go wire in there. At the end of the race, if they're coming down the stretch, it doesn't look like really Castanaya and Fly. Those two becoming the hardest at the end, but really don't look like they have a significant difference. That front runner right there is still going to be in the mix. So for Chateau Miraval, everything's going to be about that early pressure. Thomas, but who's going to win this race in your view?
I am going to go take number 3, Fly as my top choice. Coming out of barrier 5. She came from pretty far back to get second, even got bummed at the start, and ran a decent race last time out. In her first race, she was closer to the pace, and I think this time around, if she gets a decent break, she's going to sit right off the speed, because I did pick number 5, Chateau Miraval, with barrier 3 is my speed horse that she showed it last time out, and then went a little backwards, ended up 4th. She's definitely the speed in this race, and she could be the lone speed. In her maiden, she went wire to wire. She could take them. Certainly the distance is going to bother her. It'll just be whether she can hold off with mine horse to charging at the end. I don't think she's going to. And finally, I'm going to take number 10. She Smashes from barrier number 6, I think it is. Yeah. And she won her maiden last time out. She was close to the pace, and then went on at 1200, and it was a quick time. And I think her first race she showed speed too. I think she's going to show speed again. She's got a good barrier position, so again, placement if she's up to the task, and yeah, she's going up a little bit in class here, but they're 2-year-olds.
So this is the CINCOTTA Chemist Magic Night Stakes. I guess depending upon the kind of chemist, you really could have a Magic Night. I am going to start off with, in this first race, the 4-horse. Drifting at 7-1 right now. Tom's decent price right there. I think this one, Tom, is going to get a good stalking trip right behind the front runner in there. And then go by at the end, because I feel like the extra distance from its last race will be a difference maker for that one. If not, Fly, the 3-horse. That's the other one I think is going to really make up a lot of ground in the end. Last time out in the final strides, the horse literally flew. Good name, Fly there. A better start at the beginning of the race, and it could be next to impossible for the other ones to hold this one off at the end. As you mentioned, Tom, the 5-horse in here, Chateau Miraval, as we saw in the pace setup, that's the one that's going to get to the front. And if the fractions are right, and a little bit more late stamina today than in its last start, this one is the best bet to go wire to wire. Not the best bet, but just the best chance to go wire to wire. And then finally, Castanaya, the 2-horse. I think this one's got a good shot to be the favorite in here, Tom, tonight. It's another one that running a little bit extra distance, getting more runway at the end of the race, should work to its benefit. 4, 3, 5, and 2 for me in the race with, 9 horses in here, 8 horses. And by far the least amount of horses that are lined up and ready to go tonight. We're going to go off to the next race, which is race number 4. That one is the Tab PAGO Stakes. It's a Group 3. They will be running 1,200 meters. Again, Tom, if we take a look at the map, we're not sure. It's going to start here or out there.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be in that chute.
But we do know it's going to be 1,200 meters, Tom. So they're going to take that tight turn or that short turn.
Yeah, this is the Colts and Geldings version of the first race
of the Magic Chemist. Pretty excited. Interesting name there. So again, let's take a look at who's going to be where when the race gets started with those speed maps, Tom. At the beginning of the race, this one has plenty giddy up and go when they open the gates and let them go. You got a trio of them. Anade, King of Roseau, and Gatsby. Those 3 are going to get to the front. So this one could get a little bit of hot action for these 2-year-olds if they get a little bit frisky with the idea of another horse in front of them. So as they settle down to hopefully cool a little bit off, they could stretch out across the field, single file. Maybe Duvano will just go back here in the back marker and just make them go one by one by one by one, like the little kids you see when you drive by a preschool. You see those kids downtown, Tom? They got them all roped together like dogs.
Yeah, they're not going to be roping the horses together, but yes, it's you don't see anybody passing each other.
No, you don't. And then you see the lady yelling at them, "Get in line." Anyhow, as they come down to the end of the race there to see who's going to win, very similar late pace across the board. So what we saw from the speed maps, since there's really not a big advantage sans parcours, I would want to be middle forward with this group because it doesn't look like anyone has an exceptional late kick. Tom, who do you think is going to have the most kick at the end to close out those mid to forward runners?
I'm going to take number 4. And A Node is my top choice. Is barrier 11. It's using a barrier trial for the prep for this race, and it did pretty well in that. At first asking, it went wire to wire. The next start, it did break from that outside barrier, number 11, and was pushed forward a bit, sat second, but really didn't go on and just was able to hold on to third. Well, I always like horses, like especially 2-year-olds, who do get stuck on that outside barrier, and maybe a little better racing luck will result in some better results. And that's why I'm going to put it on top, because I think it'll sit off that speed. Number 7, Gatsby's, was barrier 3 is my next choice. Ran in one race, maiden race, won it, no problem. Showed excellent pace in that race. Speed was decent. And then he came back in another race, ran second. Basically chased the leaders. He didn't do enough to catch them, but didn't do anything with the people that were following him, or the horses that were, I should say. I think he's got speed based on the numbers that are suggest, and I think the draw is to his benefit, being number 3. And I think he's going to show speed, and I think he can get in the money. And finally, I'm going to take what I think should be the favorite. It would be number 1, Coleman, from barrier 5. He was a little too aggressively placed, I think, in his last race. It was a big money Group 1, and he didn't well. They refer to it in the comments as over raced. I'm not 100% sure what that means, except that maybe they pushed it a little too hard.
Yeah,
that's something I can come up with. It was a quick turnaround. He did win he's won starts. He's won a Group 3 already at 1,000 meters. His last start, he was the favorite in that race, that Group 1, and I think he's going to be it again.
It looks like right now he's about 9-2 on the. Looks to me at the moment, Gatsby's is the one.
I mean, on the fixed odds, he was sitting 4-1, but he was the favorite.
All right, I'm going to go with the horse. I said they should go to the back of the line, straighten them out from front to back with Duvana. In its second career start, really showed major improvement over its debut. I think if the horse can take another step forward today in the third career start, you're going to see a much different horse, and one that ends up in the winner's enclosure, perhaps. Gatsby, we agree on that one. The one that looks like right now the bettors down under are favoring a little under 5-2. If you look at the horses making its second career start, if you look at that debut race and kind of the numbers that horse put up, I think this one deserves to be the favorite, because if it can follow up that race with some improvement today, you might be looking at a horse, Thomas, that's special in here. And maybe, I don't know, not too many Australians make it up this way they do for the Breeders' Cup. So maybe we'll see this one in the juvenile races in November. Can you imagine if we pulled that one off and got that right? That would be amazing.
That would be a big surprise.
Yeah,
I think they've only had 1 or 2 Australian horses race. I know there are 2 horses that are coming from South Africa that are being prepped right now to Belmont, and they're eligible for the Breeders' Cup.
Well, we'll find out.
A sprinter, and I forget what the other one is.
Be crazy if we got that right. But anyway, Asode, the 4-horse, another one. I think it was your top pick, right? Tom, it's had 2 races so far. Both of them, as you can see, 1 win, 1 third. Really solid efforts. I mean, high quality starts to get his career started, and since then, since his last effort, the horse has had a barrier trial, and if you look through the fractions and the times in it, it was the fastest race that this horse has put together on the practice surface. So I think you're going to see a sharper version of Anode today. And then I'm going to go with a little bit of a price again. I'm going to go with the 8 horse. Did he scratch on me? Growing Empire. So forget that one. Since we got started today, Tom, that one, I checked the scratches before we got started too, and he wasn't scratched. So he scratched since then because I was going to put too much pressure on him. So I'm going to go 6, 7, and 4. I usually like to have 4 horses in these deeper fields, but I'm going to play by the Sean rules.
The bigger fields, you get a little bit of leeway. One comment on the 4 is I watched the barrier trial, and he was under a tight hold.
So we had a lot of left, huh?
So I think he showed. That's why I put him on top, because I thought he showed a lot more. He has a lot more to give than just what was shown in that barrier trial.
And the thing about that barrier trial, Tom, if you look at the times, it was 2 seconds faster than any of the others. And if he still had him on a tight hold, expect a big performance out of Anode. So now we just pretty much locked him into last place, Tom. Left it all on the practice track.
He'll be seeing the field at the back of the field.
Yes. And at the backside of a lot of horses wondering what happened. And then they'll let him know both Tom and Rich picked him, so we screwed him. All right, let's go off.
At least he's not going to miss a fence. I got a couple of them do that this week.
Well, if you haven't ever seen, one of those jumping things, the one I'd recommend watching is the Grand National, because it's kind of like the demolition derby of horse racing. It's not for the faint of heart because jockeys are flying and horses are bumping into things, but from just a pure entertainment standpoint, if you're into that kind of car crash thing, then that's definitely the race to watch.
Well, this year they reduced the number of horses that can start.
No, it's not like 1,000 anymore.
They went from 40 to 35.
Yeah, that's going to make a huge difference.
It's still a challenge to handicap, to say the least.
Yes, and to stay on the horse, apparently, because when the race is over, half the field is running without a jockey. It's really quite an interesting thing. All right, race number 5 is the James Squire Sky High, where we got Magic Chemist and Sky High Stakes. What's going down in Australia this weekend? This one's going to be 22,000 meters. Again, a Group 3. So for 2,000 meters, we're going to start here in this chute for sure. And it's almost one full rotation around the track there. So this is a pretty long one. You have 2 pretty good turns in there, Tom. Actually, 3 turn race, right?
Well, I would say, I was going to say 3 turns. I mean, the final into the stretch turn is a little more gradual, but you still need to have a good position or drafting in. And when they pull them, you got better have something left. Otherwise, you're going to get hung way outside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the more turns you have in a race, the more fit the horse has to be, because like you mentioned, Tommy, you don't want to be blowing those turns and going up the track, because you basically ruin any chance to win. Let's see who's going to be the fastest when they start running today. And I don't think really fast out of the gate, and this is going to be relative, although you have a few of them in here. That this race looks like it's one of those barbell races. It's going to be a race between the 3 that want to be on the front and the 4 that want to be in the back. And these 3 are kind of equally quick, so they can really put themselves in jeopardy if they go too fast. They'll string out from front to back here, with Stockman being way in the back by itself. And then as they come down the stretcher home, the 3 fast ones, well, they're going to give up ground. The 3 closers, they're all pretty similar in there, Tom. So this is really a battle of fractions. I think this is really what you want to call a jockey's race. So I think the jockey that can get the best position, maybe going into that second turn, probably the one that's going to get the W in here. And who do you think that'll be?
I'm going to take number 4 just fine. My top choice, got barrier 5. After its layoff, it showed good speed in the last race. It ran up early in the front and backed up and finished 8th. Well, that's the classic for me. He needed a race. And I looked at his second up record, and he's got 4 starts and 3 wins. So he knows how to win.
Yeah, especially in the second start.
Yeah, and he's a Group 1 winner at longer distances. And this may not be 100% the distance for him, but I think he's got a little bit of a class edge here. And I think that last race put him in good shape for this race.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Linderman is going to be my next choice with barrier 4. He also improved off a layoff, and he's been doing this past 2 races. He ran 6th first time around, and he ran 3rd. And last race was in a Group 1. He's also shown some speed in those races, and I think he'll be forwardly placed again.
Mm-hmm.
He likes this course. Got 2 starts and 2 wins, and he's won at this distance. So I think he's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I'm going to take number 8, which is the Bascan. I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah, barrier 2.
At the basket. It's got to mean something somewhere, but nothing to us.
Yeah. First start after the layoff, it runs 6 versus a Group 1 bunch. And they, it was in the back. Let's face it, it was over 6 furlongs back. I think it's a better distance for him based on his record. He's got a win and 3 placings from 8 starts. He has won Group 3's races. He's got a win over this course. And I just think he needed the start. And I'm just looking for him to hit the board. So if he does that, I'll be very happy.
Well, I think he'll hit the board because he's my second pick. But my first pick is Linderman. The favorite, it looks like right now, at about 9 to 5. It was a pretty even favorite right there. Linderman, either of his last 2 races, I think would be more than good enough to win this race going away. And as you mentioned, Tom, the 2 times he's run at Rosehill, he ended up in the winner's enclosure. Right? You got to have the proper nomenclature depending upon where you're running in the world. At the best of Bleckinen. Yes, the 8 horse, Tom. We'll just go with that. This one does have a lot of backlash for sure. And I expect that you'll see some of it emerge today in that classic second start after a layoff. It's not been his best record, though, in there. 4 times out after a little bit of time on the bench and only won 1 of them. But I do think overall this might be the class of the field. Stockman, this is one of these classic. I don't know what you want to call him, Tom. I know you have your Signs of Life horse, and I have the Runs in Bunches horses. And you see some horses on their past performances, like they'll run a dud, and then they'll run a dud, and then they'll run another dud, and then all of a sudden, poof, there's a good performance in there. It's more than a sign of life. It's just like they came to life. When this horse comes to life, he tends to stay at life for 2, 3, 4 races in a row. So I think you're going to see a second performance in a row of the Lights On. Maybe I'll call it Lights On horse. And then finally, Explosive Jack. There you go. Finally getting into a horse that Tom should pick, not me at 51 to 1. But this one did run a dud in its first race back after 11-month stint on the sidelines. That's a pretty long time for a horse to be on the sidelines. If you look at this record here, Tom, this guy's got class. Group 1, so the highest level that they run, 3 wins. So you know the horse can beat some quality horses. If he can run back to any of those 3 wins, Tom, he could win this race too. And I'll take a crack at that at 51 to 1. So he's also the highest rated horse in the field. So that's 51 to 1 on the highest rated horse in a short field. Why not? I'm surprised you don't have him in, Tom. You're leaving all the long shots up to me. That's just not right.
Yeah, well, gotta leave him with somebody.
As I mentioned, we got a lot of races to cover today, Tom. I feel like we should almost be done already, but we still have half the card to go. Race number 6, the City Tattersall's Group Maurice McCarten Stakes. So staying away from the references to partying. 1,100 meters in this case. So 1,100 meters, that's in the chute too, Tom. Well, they might start up here on the corner. Who the hell knows? But according to the diagram,
I don't think so. I think you're in the right place.
Yeah, for once in my life. So they're going to come down here, make that chart turn around, come back to the winning post. I think in these shorter races, getting to that turn first will be, I think, paramount, or at least in good position there. At the speed map early on, boy, everyone's going to be dogging it out. So I think you want to have an inside draw based upon all the speed we see here. Although Omni-Man and Red Card, those 2 will be pushing the pace the most when the bells rings. They're all going to be forward, they're all going to be forwardly placed, Tom. So you better have a little bit of late energy in here because I got a feeling this one's going to get a little hot pace-wise. If you're looking for late speed here, hey, the horse with the best name in the race, Rich Fortune, has the most of it. And that might be where this race is won down the stretch, Tom, because I think they're going to get after it all the way from start to finish. When they're done getting after it, who's going to finish the best?
I'm going to start with number 10, Dashing Legend for Barrier 4 is my top choice. I was using 2 barrier trials for prep for this race. He ran 5th in one, then ran a 3rd. Interestingly enough, the first trial was faster than the second. He's only placed once in a group race from 4 tries, but at this distance, he's got 6 starts, 4 wins, and 2 placings. I think the distance is right. I think he'll set off that red card speed and have a chance to finish on top.
You mentioned something about the workouts there, with the first one being faster than the second one. I actually like to see that, to me, because that tells me the first one, the horse was really sharp, and the second one is just there to kind of keep that edge, but not put the horse over the edge. So maybe we'll see that translate tonight on the track. Who do you got after that?
I'm going to take number 12, Rich Fortune, from
great
barrier
name.
7. She's ran in a Group 1 last time out, and she was 5th by 2.5 lengths. But she was facing the males like she's here, and she ran against 2 really good sprinters, including one, the top sprinter in Australia right now. In her other races, she's had lesser company mainly. She's run, best at 3rd, and she's won over this distance, but never at Rosehill. So it's a mixed bag with me on her. But in Group 3 races, she's got 2 starts. She's got a win and a placing. And this is one will be farther back, and I think she's going to close nicely and may upset this field. And finally, I'm going to take what I think will be the favorite, but I'm not sure. Is number 1, Airman, barrier 2. He ran well 2 races back. He was 2nd in a Group 3 at Randwick, and then he tried Group 1 company and also failed against that top sprinter in Australia. So there's a few people that have seen his back end. He comes in off a layoff. He had a barrier trial. He ran 3rd in that barrier trial. Things that stick out for me with this horse is that he likes his distance. He's run twice. He's won one, placed in the other. He's very good at second up. He's got 4 starts, 3 wins, and a placing. That always tells me you need one. And the second time up, watch out.
I'm going to start with the 7 horse in here, Tom. Omni-Man at 6-1 right now. Omni-Man is the king of good footing, so I hope it doesn't rain. But at the track, at the distance, a win in a second. But I mentioned the good footing. Let's find it right there. 7 races. He's won 5 of them. So again, Tom, that's my favorite betting type horse, to all or nothing. But I got a feeling that this one won't see its odds. I think they're more likely with that 5 out of 7 to drift lower, especially at the track and distance. 1 win in 1 second. Good fit all across the board today. Number 4, red card. Funny quick soccer story. I didn't play soccer. I played football, wrestling, stuff like that growing up. I did play soccer with my kid. Yeah, football players, wrestlers, a little bit more aggressive. I got a red card in that game. First the yellow, and then the second yellow in like 7 minutes into the game. And my son is just standing on the sidelines cracking up. Anyhow, red card, unbeaten in 2 races at the track. And this is another one, Tom, that should really prefer the good going tonight. 11 races, 6 wins in a second. And what I like about this horse, Tom, and I think it could play well, as we saw in the pace setup in here, it has versatility. The horse has proven it can win on the front, and it's proven it can run middle forward and win. So that versatility could come in handy if this race gets out of hand early on. Number 11, Libertard, 18-1 right now. This is my favorite type of horse to bet on, Tom. It is an all-or-nothing horse in here. So 6 races, 3 wins, nothing else. All of the 3 wins came in 5 races at the distance. And when the horse has gotten a good track, you can even pare that down a little more. 3 races and 2 of those wins on the good footing. And then finally, Tom, I cannot not take Rich Fortune, since that's my name. I can't bet against my name. But in any case, one of the reasons you might want to back this horse in the United States, 3 consecutive speed figure increases in a row, according to Barry Meadows, is an alpha angle. For me, an alpha angle is anything that wins at more than 12%. I'll take it in the US, and I'll also take it in the land down under. And of course, the most important thing about that horse is its name, Rich Fortune. But his poppy's name is Rich Enough. I prefer to be that guy. 2, 3 more to go, Tom. I feel like a marathon here. Race number 7 is the Chandon.
We're dealing mainly sprints or those weird distances of 1,500 meters, which is definitely a weird distance.
Yeah, it was like 7.5 furlongs or something like that, right?
Yeah, 7.5 furlongs. About.
So 1,500 meters. Well, they're going to start way back here in this chute for sure. They're going to run down that straightaway, so they got some time to figure out where they want to be. I would think that, if you don't get a good break, that you probably want to get down and save a little ground into that turn. I don't think you want to be stuck 2 or 3 wide going through that turn and then coming down and then being stuck wide down here too. So if I'm a jockey, I don't get the lead, I'm coming down to the rail.
And with this race shape, when you bring up that speed map, a lot of speed on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Raff Attack, Les Vampires, and these group right here should be right off the pace too. So I agree with you, Tom. This one, if these two aren't careful, these will definitely be putting the heat on them, keeping them honest. In the settling position, most of the field wants to be middle forward. So I would still want a little bit of late speed on one of these horses up in here. Looking at that, they're all pretty competitive except for Raff Attack and Les Vampires, those 2 front runners. So if those 2 go too fast, Tom, and one of them looks like a favorite, there's a whole stampede coming behind them to make sure that they're honest early on. All right, Tom, the moment of truth comes. Who's going to get this competitive race?
I'm going to start with number 11, Zardoz, barrier 10. Comes off a poor race in a Group 1. He went 1,400 meters at Ranwick, and it was a first start after a layoff, so it made a needed one. He's never won at this track, but he's won at varying distances of between 1,200 meters to 2,500 meters. So that's pretty versatile.
Mm-hmm.
And, has a decent record. He's got 10 starts, and this is your classic horse. 5 wins, 1 placing, and all or nothing is more the way of that. Only that 1 placing. He tends to run a bad race and come out and run well. So I'm going to go with that. And he's going to win or he's going to do nothing. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah, probably at a good price if he wins, so that's worth the risk.
And number 14, Macarena, my next choice.
Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to do that, Tom?
No, I do not, thankfully.
Oh, if we do, we got to get a video of it and play it when we get out here.
No, absolutely. We'll get Terry to do it. Group 1 last time out ran okay 5th, forwardly placed, the middle of the race and backed up. This was a race at 1,400 meters, so we're going to add another 100 to this and see what we do. She's done well at this track. She's got a win, and she also ran, and she's also 1/3 up. And it's good. 1 start, 1 win. Can't beat that. She's placed or won in 4 over her 5 races. I think she'll bounce back from that poor effort running 5th and hit the board someplace. Finally, I'm going to take number 6, Kin Type with barrier 7. My final choice. Definitely the most experienced runner in this race. Got 16 starts, but only 2 wins. Last time out, ran 3rd. Good. It was a good race. Watched the replay. Came from the back. Got some bumping action going on. And then at about 200 meters left in the race, looked like she was on track to run a good race and just wasn't able to get there. Second start off the layoff. She's done well. 3 starts. She's got 2 wins. She moves up in class here. But I think based on her last race, you're going to see maybe a win or a dramatic improvement in this race.
Mm-hmm. I know we talk about that speed map looking like there's a lot of speed, but when you kind of go through the past performances and kind of plot out where everybody's going to be, I really feel like there's only a couple of horses in here that are going to go to the front. So I don't think there's as much speed in here as we might think. I think Les Vampires gets to the front. I think should be able to get away with reasonable fractions in here. And if it can, I think a pretty good shot to either go wire to wire or co-pilot to wire. The Macarena, I think, goes something like this. And then after that, I don't know where it goes. But I do know that Macarena has been on a good surface a couple of times, managed to get the most important check in both of those races. And then one time at the Rosehill course, also found the big check in there. I think this one's going to sit mid to forward and then try to run by the front runners at the end. So again, fractions being key. If it's not hot, definitely make Macarena's task more difficult. Salt Coats, the 5 horse in here. This one at 5-1 right now. It's pretty close to that. Last time out was the first race after a little bit of time on the sidelines, and that was at, you want to talk about a really weird distance, Tom. That last distance was 6 3/4 furlongs. That's kind of an odd distance to run in there. This one getting the extra 3/4 of a furlong should be helpful, and the horse does have a maintenance workout between races, so I expect the horse to be more fit today so that it can capitalize on the extra distance. Then finally, the 11 horse Zardoni is my final choice in here. As you mentioned, Tom, this guy is win or bust. Last time out was a pretty dull effort in the first race after being sidelined for about 4 months. This does have some of the most back class in the field. In fact, if you look here on the class rating, this one is by far the classiest horse in the field. So if it can reach back into its history, you could make a joke out of this race if it comes anywhere near its potential. I don't know that that's going to happen tonight, but you and I are both rooting for it as it's a part of our picks. It was your top pick, right?
Yeah, my top pick.
All right, 2 races left to go, Tom. So feeling good about our chance. Look at this race. All these ratings are pretty tight. So this is a deep field, except for Barbie's doll. That's about the only one that maybe you can X off at 81-1. Maybe I just put that one in the winner's circle for sure. They're going to run in the Coolmore Classic. This is a Group 1 for 3-year-old fillies and mares, 1,500 meters. They're going to start in that back chute again. Plenty of time to work their way to that turn, as we mentioned, Tom. Again, I feel like if you don't get proper position early on, you better tuck yourself down in, save a little bit of ground. When they do get started, and at approximately, this one should kick off, Tom, at about, let's see, the Coolmore is going to start at about 1:35 a.m. Eastern. When they do kick it off, you're going to find Tropical Squall, Deny Knowledge. Those two, a little bit of speed edge over everybody else. So if they can run comfortable fractions, they should get up to the turn first. Matter of how they position themselves. Boy,
depends on what happens on the inside because they've got outside barriers.
Look at them all bunching up here in the middle, Tom. So there's this deep field. All the horses have a lot of similar pace. Positioning is going to be huge. Otherwise, you're going to get blocked. You're going to get stuck wide. So really, tactical speed, I think, could be very helpful in here. And as they're coming down the stretch again, it's just going to be a free-for-all because they're all pretty tightly matched there. I would definitely want to make sure that I get good early position in this race to make sure I have the best chance to have the best position at the end of the race. And that's Tom's pick to win. Who will it be?
Number 13, Hell Hath No Fury, the barrier 3. She's been improving off her past 5 races and really ran well last time out in a Group 2 at 1,400 meters, and she won that race. In prior races, she's got a couple wins. She's got second. She's got a third. And just is one of those horses that it started out the benchmark 72 and 78 levels and just keeps getting better. I've seen this angle with fillies and mares before, and there are a few really good horses that, you know, all of a sudden they figured it out and they start to get good. And I think this is one who's a good one. Mm-hmm. I think she's the one to beat personally. But I think you can get a decent price.
Yeah, 34-1. If Walter Payton is the one to beat, I'll take that.
Yeah. Number 1, CINCOTTA.
Yeah.
With barrier 2. She won her last start at 1,300 meters by length. It was Group 2, and it was at Rosehill. She's won at this distance before. And she's done well at this track with 4 starts and 2 wins.
Mm-hmm.
She's coming from her last race was a layoff, and she's got a good second up record too. So she won last time. She's done it again before. Got 4 starts, 2 wins, and a placing. I think the difference in the last race was they changed equipment. They took the blinkers off, and that looks like it made a difference. So we'll see what kind of a difference it makes it in this race.
Well, here's kind of something interesting too. The jockey and the horse you see over here, they've run together 9 times in the horse's 13 races, and 5 of those wins in the second coming with the jockey. So it seems like he gets the most out of that horse.
He's communicating well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Finally, I'm going to take a bit going back to that long shot angle and take number 10, Renaissance Woman with barrier 5.
Because she has no fury. I'll have no fury like Renaissance Woman. There you go.
Yeah, after her layoff, she ran an 8th in a Group 2. She used 2 barrier trials to prepare for the race. But her second up record is really interesting because she got 4 starts and 3 wins.
Mm-hmm.
But Group 1s, she hasn't done so well. So, no 5 starts and nothing to show for it.
As many wins as I do.
Yeah. This is a tough group. There's a ton of speed on the outside, a Revolutionary Lady, and some of those guys are going to be just flying. But I think she's going to sit behind the front runners and be one of those big closers. And I'm just looking for her to hit the board and at a price, and that's where I'm going to play her.
Yeah, the open field at a price angle has not been working out for me lately. I've been trying to, because it's an open race. I mean, you look at all the numbers.
Oh yeah, this is a wide open race. You throw a dart, and you could. I think I ruled out 2 horses in the entire field, which is.
And they're probably my first 2 picks. But in any case,
we'll see.
We'll find out. So this might be one that you pulled out of here. We'll find out in a second. But I'm going to go with the 9 horse, Madame Pommery. Was that one that you ruled out, Thomas?
That one definitely was in.
All right. The horse does have some of the most backlash in the field for sure. It was off since November. It came back and actually ran a pretty solid race. So I think today in that second up start, the horse has 2 seconds and 4 tries second up. I do think you'll see an improved horse today that can reach into its history and find some of that class. And in this deep field, I think you got to take some shots as well. Zugacha, the one horse that looks like it's the favorite, but if you can get a favorite at 4-1, it's probably one you should circle and think about putting into your picks, especially a horse that came back to win its first race after more than 6 months with a robust effort. Tom, the only concern for me about that last race, though, is it came off the bench and ran its strongest race probably ever after a more than 5-month rest. And the statistics say a horse that's been off for 5 months that comes back and runs its best career race usually is a huge candidate for regression. But run the same race again, it wins.
I would say that with lesser horses, but we're talking about some pretty good horses here.
Yeah, Group 1 caliber for sure.
Yeah, we're talking. These aren't the $10,000 claimers. They're worth a few more dollars than that.
Yeah, maybe we can claim one and put it in there. Samana, the 3 horse. Right now, unquestionably, this horse is probably in its career best form. This one should be coming at the end. Going to get a little bit of extra distance today, which I do think works to its favor. And then finally, Revolutionary Miss, one of those horses, Tom, that you mentioned that should be forwardly placed in here. And this is another one of my favorite kind of horses in there, is that when you look through the past performances, you can just see incremental improvement, not like big gaps. Like it's not just going bang, bang, and then regress. The horse is just inching forward race after race after race, and somewhat anonymously. And sometimes those horses get overlooked because you just don't see those big jumps. That might be the case here today with Revolutionary Miss at 15-1.
She generally pays well, but I really, that outside barrier with the number of horses that are of the top horses that are on those outside barriers, I think it could be a real messy race.
Well, they can clear or get that good form right into that first turn. Got a shot. But you're at 15-1. We'll play it out and see what happens. All right, Tom, as I mentioned, we did 7 races today. Normally we do 5 or 6. So this is a marathon for you and I. the ATC Foundation AJAX Stakes. This is a Group 2 for 3-year-olds. They're going to go 1,500 meters. We do know the 1,500 meters is back here. So keep an eye on those other two 1,500-meter races before this one gets cracking to find out where you want your horse to be. Do you want it to be in the front? Do you want it to be in the middle? Do you want it to be in the back? What's the bias going to be when this one starts at 2:15 a.m. Eastern time? You'll still be up then, no? 1:15 our time?
Absolutely.
With his dollars at stake. All right, Tom. When the race gets started at 2:15, when Tom's still awake, I'll be sound asleep. Got to be somewhere 8 o'clock in the morning. More Victorious and Fearson. They have a little bit of an early edge speed in here, Tom. And, well, Fearson's on the inside. More Victorious is on the outside. So that should benefit the 3-horse. Settling position. Look at that. They're going to go. This is like a Noah the Ark race, 2x2x2x2, all the way to the back. Willwall's going to feel a little lonely in that gap right in there. As they come down to close out the last race of the day for you and me. Again, some pretty competitiveness down the end there. The only one that doesn't look like it fits in there is Caesar's Palace. Again, worth the gamble maybe at 151 to 1, Tom. I know you didn't gamble on Caesar's Palace. They got bad odds there, Tom. Who do you like?
I did start with one of those front runners, and that's number 13. More Victorious, barrier 7, comes in a race with 2 wins, 1,400 meters. And 1,600 meters, yeah, it was against lesser company, but it's winning by over 3 lengths in each of those races. Used some barrier trial to prep, and it ran a second. It was an average time, wasn't pretty. So it was maintenance. He's definitely one of the speed horses in this race, as you said. He's run 3 times at Rosehill. He does have a win and a placing from his 3 starts, and he's won at this distance twice from 3 starts. Yep, moves up. But I think he can get the job done. This is an excellent place to get a nice group win.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take number 2, Detonator Jack, as my next choice with barrier 2. He comes in the race off a layoff with 2 barrier trials. He won one of them, and then he did okay in the other one. This is one that's got some of that back class you like to talk about, because he's won $1 million race before, 2 starts back. And the next race, he was the favorite, and it was not a good effort, and they put him on the bench. Basically passing tired horses. Most of his good efforts, he sits mid-pack and then moves at the leaders. That's maybe a good race to do that at. And he's done okay off layoff, so I'm going to put him second. And then aforementioned Fearson. Yeah, he ran a great race last time out. He is barrier 3, so he's got the inside speed on my pick.
Mm-hmm.
Came in the last race off a layoff, won by a length. It was Group 3, and he got nice healthy odds because I bet him. He was 11 to 1. He's won before. He can do it again. He's placed in 82% of his 17 races, so he does like to hit the board. But guess what? A 35% win rate.
That's a great win rate, too.
That's not bad. He's won at this track. He's won at this distance. So could he repeat? Oh, yeah. I wouldn't. But I'm not going to put him out of the money.
Well, I hope he does repeat, Tom, because where you left off is where I'm going to begin with Fearson. As you mentioned, just came off the bench. Sharp race, taking home the trophy and the Group 3, excuse me. I think today, too, the horse actually benefits from catching a little bit extra distance in the second start after a layoff. Democracy, Manifest is another one I think will benefit from a little bit of extra distance today. That guy's in post number 5. 6.5 to 1 right now. This one is one that does prefer the good footing, so I hope there is no rain by the time this one gets started. When I'm sound asleep, Tom's cashing some big checks right there. This one does close, and I think getting some extra mileage to go today does work to its benefit. Bold Mac, the 4-horse. I always got to have a bomb in my picks today, Tom. I learned that from you. When you do these international races, there's always some long shots.
You have to. You have to. Especially these big fields.
Yeah, and just and quality horses, too. So it's not like you're taking long shots on a claiming 5 that moved up to claiming 20 off the highest last for speed figure. Bold Mac in here is one of those horses, too, like I mentioned in that last race. It's just trending higher and higher and higher and higher. And if they have a top last race speed figure designation, In Australia, this guy would get it. Here in the States, the top last race speed figure wins at about 28, 29%. 29% definitely warrants less odds than 41-1. And then finally, the 8-horse in this long day of picks from Tom and I, Wall, or something like that. This one had a very strong closing effort in its last race, Thomas. And one of the other things that I try to look at is the final times to see if the horses are running any faster. This one ran 2 seconds faster. Each second equates to about 5 lengths. That means that horse was 10 lengths faster than the prior time it ran at the same distance. That's a huge improvement. 2, 5, 4, and 8 to close it out, Tom, in what was a deep card for you and I. If this is the first time you've ever joined us, kindly hit the like button on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. If you're on Twitter, if you could retweet our content, that helps us. Every bit of interaction we get, whether it's a comment, a retweet, a follow, a like, any of the above, that triggers all the big tech algorithms. So when folks search for Foreign Fridays with Tom and Rich, that would probably pop to the top of the list on that anyway. But maybe on Rosehill, we might actually make it to the 30th page. We'd appreciate that. Tom, that wraps up Australian racing for tonight. Any sense of what we're going to do next week?
We're going to return to Rosehill, and there's the top race will be the Golden Slipper, and Ryan Moore is scheduled to ride there, and a few others decent. That's one of the better races in Australia in the autumn because our spring's coming, but their winter is approaching, and they're in the autumn of. So these are some of the better horses we'll be running in this race. It's a 2-year-old race, so it'll be interesting. And then the week after, more importantly, or not more importantly, depending on your point of view, we have the Dubai World Cup.
Oh, yes. Big stuff there for sure. Last year, we did pretty well there. I had a lot of folks join in. Hopefully, they joined in on us on the cashing some positive tickets. Well, keep an eye on how we do on Rosehill tonight because Tom forecasted we'll be there next week. Yes, so if we do bad this week, it means the gambler's fallacy will come true. We're due next week. And if we do good this week, it means we're hot. So you're definitely going to want to come back. So either way, next week will be a strong week for sure for us. Terry and I will return on Monday, as we always do, Monday and Tuesday, back here in the States for Parks Racing. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, Gulfstream Park. I think next weekend, too, Tom, is the Louisiana Derby, too, right? One of the big races for the trail to the Kentucky Derby. And, of course, at the end of March, I think the marquee race to kind of try to peg out some of the main contenders is the Florida Derby. All right, Tom, well, that wraps it up. Of course, in the link in the description down below, there is a link to some free picks over at Guaranteed Tip Sheet. Kindly use that so they know where it is you're coming from. But other than that, Tom, any final words of wisdom before you and I part on this Foreign Friday?
Well, you always like to say, let's end up in the winner's circle, or in this case, the winner's enclosure.
Indeed. No matter what you're doing for the rest of this weekend, you're out to play some golf with your hardy friends who aren't afraid to play when the temperature's a little bit cold at the start, but becomes perfect as you move on. Or you've got some work around the yard, or you're just playing some horses here in the States, in Australia, in England, anywhere on the planet. We certainly hope you have God's grace, God's favor. And as you mentioned, Tom, that every single thing you do ends up in
the winner's enclosure.
Indeed. Tom and I thank you for joining us today and look forward to joining you for round 2 at Rosehill next Friday.